Some of the aspects of life that are most important to me are religion and family. And for me, the two are almost intertwined. I grew up in a family where the household was a practicing household. The love of Ahlulbayt was instilled in us and encouraged. But we were also always encouraged to ask questions. We were also encouraged to think, to open our minds. Whenever we went to a majalis, whenever a point came up that perhaps we didn't understand, it was absolutely normal for us to discuss openly on the kitchen table with our parents while we were having dinner, in the car on the way home from the majlis. It wasn't uncommon to have all sorts of, some very feisty and heated debates about things that have been said. So for me, some of my earliest memories are those two fundamental elements of my life coming together. And alhamdulillah, that's made me the person that I am today. It's allowed me to think, it's allowed me to question, to not follow blindly. If there is something that I feel that I don't understand, I am willing to go out and find an answer for it. And it's due to that inquisitiveness, I guess, that's been instilled and encouraged from a young age. I'm a practicing lawyer. I work for a firm that specializes in private client work. So I do a lot of work relating to wills, to probate, to helping and to guiding a family through the process, the legal process when a person dies, and realizing their assets and distributing them in accordance with the terms of their will. It was actually an area that I fell into by accident. I had always intended to be more on the property side, but this was something that caught my interest as I was training, and which I decided to develop further. Almost over 10 years ago when I started university, there were members of my community that discouraged me from pursuing a career in law. I think at that time it was not a very common area for people of our background, of my background, to particularly go into. People were more going towards the various medical branches, and although that was something that I had initially thought about, there was a point in my life when I was 17 years old when my grandmother was in hospital for 6 months, and going through that process with my family actually made me realize that wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't think that it was something that I could relate to. I didn't think it was something that I could fulfill to the best of my ability. So I started looking at other areas. I come from a family that has a background in financial services, so that was the expected family route for me to go down. But as I decided to pursue a law degree, and as I got more into studying the subject and undertaking relevant work experience, I decided that this is what I actually found really interesting and what I wanted to do. So one of the things that I would say to anybody that's thinking of pursuing a career in a field like this is to do your research, to make sure that it is what you want to do, undertake lots of work experience, to find out about the different fields, and ultimately, if it is what you want to do, pursue it wholeheartedly. It's not an easy route. Anyone that's been through it will tell you that it requires a lot of hard work and perseverance. But inshallah, with the grace of Allah, you can make it, and you can come out the other end successful. It just takes a lot of patience and hard work to get there. But it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. My job involves me helping people that are going through a bereavement. I see, and it's helped me actually to get closer to my religion, because I see death in some form or another every day. At the beginning of a probate case, I take instructions from the deceased person's family, and I see their emotion, I see their grief, and it hits home the reality that this is what's going to happen to all of us one day. This is where we're all going to go. And part of my job is to guide them through that process with the utmost amount of sympathy and expertise, and to make that process less daunting, and to be as helpful as I can towards them while they're going through that very difficult time. So I do feel that it does fulfill a need for the community, and it's an area that I've begun to enjoy very much. One of the things that is very close to my heart, something that I'm very passionate about, is community work, and to try and make our community and our society a better place for our future generation. And I get very involved in volunteering activities at my local mosque, which is HRA Islamic School in South London. But more so, I'm very passionate about the madrasa HRA Islamic School and the kids in the classes that I teach there. For the last 6 to 7 years, I've been teaching there for almost 10 years, but for the last 6 to 7 years, I've been focusing on teaching the GCSE Islamic Studies course. So I teach students ranging from the ages of 14 to 16. We concentrate on the syllabus, which focuses on some very conventional topics, but also some very contemporary modern topics like abortion, euthanasia, relationships outside of marriage. And it's really interesting to see the views that these 14 to 16-year-olds have. And one of the aims that I have is to provide them with a safe forum within which to express their views, to express their ideas, to express their opinions. Ideas and opinions that may not necessarily conform to what religion or what society or culture adhere to. So, we have some very interesting and fascinating debates, and I try to encourage that thought. I try to encourage them to open up their minds, to think, to question around these sorts of topics that are so important to us today, that perhaps when I was growing up were taboo topics that we were sort of perhaps discouraged from speaking about in a public context or in a wider context. So these are the sorts of issues that I try to bring out into the open, and hopefully I can see them really engaging in the debate, really engaging in the classes. And as I said, it's a forum for them to express their views and to make themselves heard, and to allow themselves to say those things that they may not be able to say otherwise within the safety of those four walls, to know that they won't be judged, or that they won't be ostracized, or they won't be criticized for having a particular view. We're all different. We all think certain things. So I think it's very important for them to be able to say those things and to know that they're not going to be judged for it. So that's one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about. It's something that I really do enjoy spending, a couple of hours on a Saturday doing, plus the preparation beforehand and the marking, which isn't always so fun, but it's part and parcel of the role. But it's something that is very close to my heart, and something that I want to develop and build on further in the future, inshallah. If there are thoughts or opinions that come that don't necessarily conform to what our madhab teaches us, then I do try my best to guide them towards, for want of a better word, the right path. Having said that, it's also important to understand where they're coming from, the context in which they're speaking from, whether it's from peer pressure, whether it's from family pressure, peer pressure. What is it that has influenced that child to have those sorts of views? Is there something there that I can have an impact upon? Can I be that role model for them to try and model their life on, and to try and have a different outlook on things? So a lot of it comes down to dialogue and actually understanding. A lot of these children actually do feel misunderstood. They feel as if they're not listened to. So part of my job is to actually make sure that they feel that they are listened to, whilst at the same time helping them through this course. And I think if they feel that as if they're not listened to, then that's only opportunity for them to deviate further. Imam Ali has said that the heart of a youth is like a fertile piece of land. Whatever you throw on it will be absorbed, will be cultivated there. So I think it's so important, in my role particularly, to make sure that the right view of what our religion teaches on certain things is presented to them as best as possible, because it's such a dangerous age that you don't want to be responsible for that youth being led astray in the future. We all have role models, teachers, parents, friends that we looked up to when we were 14, 15, 16 years old. And I think it's such an influential age. So it's so important actually to make sure that the right views are presented to them, but in a way that they understand and that they accept it. And if there is something that you yourself in that position don't understand, it's so important for you to be open to them about it and to say, look, I'll come back to you having done some research, having thought about it further, because you can't risk that child going astray and then being held accountable and responsible for it in the eyes of God. It's too dangerous an age to mess around with their thoughts, with their feelings, with their opinions. You have to listen to what they say, and if it is something that isn't in line with what Islam says, culture aside, if it may not be what culture or society dictates them to think, but as long as it's not against Islam, I don't have a problem with that. But if it's something that's morally wrong, something that is fundamentally deviant from what Islam teaches, then yes, I am under a duty and a responsibility to try and guide that child into what is appropriate. Two of the people that inspire me the most are my parents. I was born to my parents after 11 years of marriage. I came after a very long time for them, and it was a difficult period in their lives. And because of that, we've always had a very close-knit relationship. It's always been the three of us as I was growing up. And just the way that they interacted with each other, the way that they brought me up to and instilled that discipline in me, instilled that value of hard work in me, is something that I do admire and that I do thank them for. When I was younger, I did particularly think that my mother was always very strict on me. There were certain things, that I wasn't allowed to do, places that I wasn't allowed to go. But looking back, actually, I don't think that was a bad thing at the time. I think as a child, I must have thought, oh God, Mom is so strict. Mom, why is Mom getting angry at me for this? But with the benefit of hindsight, with the benefit of experience, looking back all those years, I actually am grateful that she was, because I wouldn't have been the person that I am today had it not been for what she had done all those years ago. So cliche as it may sound, they are two of my biggest inspirations, my biggest role models, people that I know that are always there for me. So, it's just a blessing of Allah, alhamdulillah. One of the things that I've learnt in the last few years in a professional context and in a personal context, and one area which I feel that I do need some improvement in, is the ability to take criticism, to take feedback, whether it's in a professional context, whether it's in a personal context. The ability to look at yourself from the eyes of others and to see where you're going wrong, and that can be incredibly difficult. When you think that you're a patient person, when you think that you don't get angry very easily, when you think that you're doing a piece of work to the highest standard, it's very disheartening when somebody else comes along and looks at it from a different lens and says, actually, well, this is something that needs improvement, this is something that could be better. And I think over the years, what I've learned is it's so important to be able to take on that feedback, to adapt yourself to it and to come out the other end and to be better. But at the same time, to not take it too personally, whether that constructive criticism is given in a personal, family, relationship context, or whether it's given in a professional context. The idea is to absorb it, to make yourself better, and to rise above it all. So one of the things that I would certainly think that I need improvement on is that ability to take feedback, to take it on board, and not be so stuck and stubborn in my ways, but to progress and move on and to flourish, inshallah. And at the same time, to realize that if somebody, particularly in a personal context, is giving me feedback, it's not necessarily out of anger or out of spite. It's because that person genuinely cares, that person genuinely has a love for me, which is why they want to see me do better. So that it's important, I think, not to take that sort of criticism too much to heart, so much so that it disheartens you and that you actually, instead of improving yourself, go further down. It's a point to learn from, it's a point to take on board, and to adapt on and to become a better person, inshallah. There have been situations, particularly at work, when you're in the initial stages of your training, you're fresh out of law school, you feel that you know everything that there is to know, and it comes as a huge shock when you're dumped into the working environment and realize that actually you know very little. That's quite a shock. So at that particular point, you have to be so open to learning, so open to taking on board advice from others, friendly advice, open to taking criticism, whether somebody is judging your writing style, whether somebody's judging the way that you interact and behave with clients, which to you may seem professional, but which to somebody else may not be. So that sort of thing is very important, particularly in a work environment, to learn from your colleagues, to see how they interact, to see how they adapt, and to take it on board and to learn from it. And yes, there have been situations in my life where feedback has been given to me in a personal context and in a professional context, which I have taken badly, which I have gone away and thought, well, actually, maybe that's not well intentioned. But I think the more you think about it, the more you look at it, the more you realize why it's been said. You can actually see that, yes, there is a fault there that needs to be rectified, and it's something that you need to work on as an individual. And when you do that, you do attain closeness to Allah. Imam Ali's famous saying that the one who knows himself knows his Lord, and it's imperative that you know your own faults. It's imperative that you know where you are in need of improvement, whether it's in a spiritual context, whether it's in a friendship context, whether it's in a professional context. You as a Muslim need to know what you can be doing to constantly be the best at whatever it is that you do, and to perfect your behavior, to perfect your akhlaq. And if somebody does come to you with any kind of criticism, any kind of feedback, to take it on the chin, to learn from it, and to understand why it's being said to you. Maybe there was a situation where you reacted in a way that you shouldn't have done. Maybe there was something that you said that you shouldn't have done. Maybe you did behave in a way that you shouldn't have behaved in. So it's really important to self-reflect, to look back on what you yourself have done, and to realize why that's being said to you, and to take it as an opportunity to learn rather than as an opportunity to knock someone else down, or to see why am I being criticized, or to always feel as if you're the victim. It's an opportunity to learn and to improve and to grow and to become better, inshallah. I've been married, alhamdulillah, for a little over a year, and there are certain aspects in which I feel that marriage has changed me for the better. I think before you get married, you'll have a very idealistic view of yourself and the kind of partner that you will be. I will do this, I'll be like this is how I'm going to behave. At the same time as having your expectations of the other person, you'll also have your own idealizations. You'll really have puffed yourself up in your own head. And when you actually realize that you can't carry all those through, it's a big reality check. And one of the things that I've learned throughout marriage is that you're definitely not perfect. You do have flaws within you that perhaps you can't see, and it does take that other person to point them out to you and say, actually, have you thought about improving this, or have you thought about doing this in a better way? And again, it's that ability to accept criticism, to accept feedback without taking it to heart. And that's something that I feel that I really have needed to work on while I've been married. And at the same time, I feel that those points have changed me for the better. It's something that I'm still working on. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But it's that ability to absorb and to see yourself through another person's eyes. That is the person that is living with you. That is the person that is with you 24/7. They will see things about you that they don't like. And it's very hard when a person that close to you points out a fault of yours, because you want them to see you in a positive light. You want them to always see the best in you. You want them to always be grateful that they married you for the person that you are. And it's very sort of disheartening and very sad when they pick out a fault of yours. And sometimes the hardest thing is actually accepting it, because part of you knows that it's true. Part of you knows that this is a fault of mine. This is something that I need to work on. And although you knew it, it just takes somebody else, somebody closer to you, whose words might hit home a little bit closer, to actually tell you that. And, part and parcel of that is allowing that change to take place from within you, to pray to Allah to make that change happen within you. If it's something, that you feel that you majorly need to work on, you need to pray to Allah to give you the tawfiq to change it. You need to pray to Him to give you the guidance to accept it, and to change yourself for the better, and to, inshallah, make your marriage stronger as you progress together through life. Marriage, as we're always told, is a growth process. It's a process by which the two of you become closer to Allah as a unit. And you can't do that. We're always given the example of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima, how they complemented each other, how they helped each other. And part of marriage is complementing and helping each other. If I was talking to my 13-year-old self, I would say to her, seize every opportunity that comes your way. You don't want to be one of those people in life that look back at something and think, what if? In my view, certainly what I have been through, what I've experienced, it's better to seize the moment. It's better to seize an opportunity to take measured risks that are appropriate for the context that you're in. But it's better to take those risks and to come out of it having had an experience, whether it's positive or negative, rather than to look back in 10, 15, 20 years' time and think, what if I had done that? How would life have panned out? You don't want to give yourself an opportunity to say, what if? You want that opportunity to say, I did something, I tried it, it worked out, alhamdulillah. It didn't work out, alhamdulillah. Allah knows best. So that's what I would say to my 13-year-old self. Seize every single opportunity that comes your way. Don't waste your time. Be disciplined and have faith in yourself, have faith in Allah, and the rest will come, inshallah.